Thank you everybody for being here. Good to see everyone here and online. I feel like I'm just one lotus in a sea of lotus flowers. You got your lotus going on?
Yeah, I got the mud part.
You got the mud part, right? Well, the mud is good, but you got the lotus too. You got the lotus too. We just have to sit upright and we'll get our lotus going too. So welcome everybody. I'm really pleased to, well, first of all, just as we're ceremony for Katagiri Roshi, it just felt like such an honor to be in this particular position to offer tea and sweets, etc., to him as a to his memory, to his activity. He was I never met him personally. My teacher met him. And we studied his Dharma words when I was in training with my teacher at Mount Equity Zendo, and I just know he's had a profound impact on Zen in the Midwest. So we really owe him a debt of gratitude that he came all the way from Japan to leap over cultural and linguistic and political and religious boundaries to offer the Dharma. So I felt a connection with him there in the ceremony, and I feel like he's with us today. And certainly his writings or his teachings have been written down, like in books like this and others, the one that I quoted from earlier. So we have this amazing resource in our midst, and he really brings the Dharma alive and makes Dogen's teachings accessible to us. So what I'd like to share today, just a little story about my teacher and something that she said to me or to our Sangha. I don't remember which it was now, but because I spent so much time with her just one-on-one, but she talked about becoming nothing. So that's what I want to share today, about becoming nothing. First of all, to consider a question: where do our ideas about who we are come from? Right? Just to think about that, even as a koan, as something to sit with, and as something to investigate in Zazen. And how may our ideas of what we are be a hindrance to freedom? The idea of being a particular person with a name, and that name is just, our names are just invested with so many ideas that it's like a prison cell that we've made around ourselves with the name. Our job becomes another part of that cage. Our age becomes another part of that cage. Our species becomes another part of that cage that locks us in. And it just really prevents us from having a free mind. And by free mind, I don't mean just what we could do anything we want. No, free mind means to see our true self, our true nature. And that's much greater than our ideas. I came across the yoga, what is it? It's called Buddhist yoga, or the I'm going to butcher the name, Sindharma, I forget the name. You'll have to forgive me there, but it's basics of Yogacara, the Yogacara school. Recently, I come back to it again and again because it's just so profound and can help me to kind of unlock this cage that we create around ourselves. And it mentioned in Yogacara, it mentions three kinds of essencelessness, three kinds of essencelessness. The first is the essencelessness of characteristics. The second is the essencelessness of birth. And the third is the ultimate essencelessness. And without even going into the details about these three, the very first one, we can really if we can penetrate this first one, we're going to get somewhere really deep. And that is the essencelessness of characteristics. So what I just mentioned are characteristics of ourself, right? Our name, our species, our job, our role, mother, father, daughter, son, whatever it is, whatever label you want to put on that. It is, and the Buddhist yoga says, it is their conceptually grasped character. Why? Because the characteristics are defined by artificial names, not by inherent definition. And what really grabs me here, if you don't understand this wording, it's kind of confusing wording, but the point that really stands out to me is this idea of characteristics defined by artificial names. Yesterday, we put name tags on ourselves in the Intro to Zen class. So I had my name, Daishin. The nice thing about having that name tag on me was that I could peel it off. But it's like we have name tags like peeled on, like stuck with super glue on our heart, and it's hard to peel it off. But we all have these artificial names we are given, that are projected onto us, and then that we eventually embody. But if you look at a little baby, wow, where's their name? What do they see? They're just receiving. They're just receptors. And they're not putting anything. They're not grasping onto whatever we project onto them. They're not holding on to that. And so there are teachers in a big way here. So I'd like to share a story about my teacher that she shared around her ordination ceremony when she became a Zen nun. And I want to make 3 points. I want to make a few more than 3. The first one is, in order to become nothing, in order to be a nothing, we have to have a lot of confidence, a lot of self-confidence. And in the case of my teacher, she had a tremendous amount of confidence in that she went to Japan as an American, as an outsider. She got herself involved in a tradition that was predominantly male. She learned the Japanese culture. She learned the language. She got to know the right people, and she lived in Japan before her ordination. She lived in Japan for over 10 years. And so in a similar way to Katagiri Roshi, like I said, he jumped over or went through all of these cultural boundaries, language barriers. Katagiri Roshi was not a native English speaker, and my teacher wasn't a native Japanese speaker, and yet had tremendous determination for getting clear about her life. And so by the way, she also went on this 6-week pilgrimage around the island of Shikoku on foot. Mm-hmm. This was prior to her, and you wear the outfit in Japan. You wear the outfit of a pilgrim, wearing all white, and you go for around the 88. There's 88 temples that are in the Shingon Buddhist tradition. It's different from Zen, but it's the more esoteric teachings brought by Kukai. And so she went around the island like that on foot, sleeping at the temples or maybe outside, and had all kinds of different experiences and insights doing that. So in order to do that, you've got to have some degree of self-confidence. And she was instructed by her Rinzai teacher to recite the Heart Sutra the whole way. And this is where she ended up meeting her teacher, Noda Daito Roshi. Also, tremendous self-confidence, tremendous confidence that we can succeed in what we set out to do, whatever it is. We can succeed. And eventually he gave her, so long story short, he gave her an introduction to Daishun Shimbi Daiyosho, who came to be her ordination teacher. And Daishun Shimbi, who I shared about earlier in a different Dharma talk, he gave her this interesting calligraphy that had on it, Japanese calligraphy that so beautiful. The number is 543210. In other words, this was the time that she was to become a big zero. And 54 was a reference to the year, the 54th year of the Showa emperor. 3 was the month, March, the month that we're in now. 2 and 1 were referring to the day, the 21st of March. That was her ordination day. And it was then that she was to become a big zero. 543210. And so her name, Dai En, actually means that, big zero, or big Enso. You see all the symbols just gathered together in one spot there? So Dai En could mean, it could mean great circle. It could mean great nothing, great zero. It's also a reference in Buddhism to the idea of no self. And that's what we're really getting at here. We start here as smaller than the space between my two fingers, right? Each one of us in this room started out as smaller than the space between my two fingers here. What happened? It's like the plant, we just, the head comes up, the legs sprout out, and here we are. And then we have consciousness on top of that. What happened there? And now we're here. And it's like, what? I can't make sense out of all of that. So her job, given her name, was to make her circle wide enough to include everyone and everything in it. That was her job, to become an ABC, a bigger container, to hold everyone and everything. But she was also very human. You know, she had this aspect of herself that was highly self-confident. She was also a classical ballet dancer. She did classical ballet from the age of 13 to about 33 or 34 years of age, so 20 some years in that world. But she didn't have it easy either. When she was going to college, she was signing up for her 4th year of college, and she learned that she couldn't sign up for the 4th year until the 3rd year was paid for. Her parents had gone bankrupt and didn't tell her. That's how she learned about it. The family ended up moving from a prestigious home in the college town where I went to school. They had a beautiful home that I saw, and they ended up going to a small apartment in a very rural area, about 30 minutes outside of the college town. So it was a major shame for her family. And she wasn't able to finish college as a result of that, at least at that time. At 13, she also felt unwelcome in the religious community in which she grew up in. Like I mentioned, she wanted to be a dancer, and her parents weren't real enthusiastic about her doing that. In fact, they told the minister to try to discourage her. And in part of his sermon, he told the he told the congregants, but really directing it towards her, that all dancers go to hell. All right, so she and she could have taken that one way of, oh my goodness, that's a terrible idea that I had. I'm going to let that go so that I can be a part of this community. But rather, what she did was decide never to return to that church again at 13. And she ended up, because her parents weren't going to pay for her ballet lessons, she would help people with their homework assignments for money, which meant she would write their book reports for them. And that to help to pay for her ballet lessons. She had one brother who suffered from schizophrenia, and another who we suspect had autism. I met them both, and one of them lived with him for the 15 years that I was at Mount Equity Zendo. So they each had their mental health issues. She was married and divorced within 6 years of the marriage. She wanted to have children. She never had children. As a young adult, prior to living in Japan, she had thoughts of suicide. She had bouts with anxiety, borderlining on paranoia. She had bouts with depression. She suffered from malnutrition. And she suffered from malnutrition and presently suffering from dementia as a result of that malnutrition. So she is a very human being, but still has this incredible urge, desire to live life, to love life. That was my overwhelming attraction to her, is that I could see that strength without her saying a word. I could see that strength despite, right? We're all lotuses. We're in the mud, but we're also lotuses desiring to fully blossom. So the point is that regardless, her former husband was extraordinarily wealthy, came from a very wealthy family, but that was not what made her happy. She realized happiness was not dependent on great wealth. So regardless of our own status, regardless of our own wealth, regardless of our family situation, our psychological situation, we all have the capacity to wake up. We all have the capacity to fully bloom into our flowerness. And there's no excuses that we can make there. Zero. That's what I learned from her. No excuses. Her guiding questions were, how can I see straight? How can I get to be real? How can I live a life of no lie? Those were her pointing questions. And another synonym for the name Dai-en is great mirror, the great mirror. In those days, in the olden days, the mirrors were made into a large circle. And so Dai-en, meaning great circle, could also be synonymous with mirror. And the mirror image is, the mirror symbol is found deeply in Zen literature. There's a story that Dogen retells. It's an ancient story about a monk sitting zazen out in the garden where we should be right now. Sitting zazen, he was sitting zazen on the veranda, and his teacher comes to him and says, "What are you doing sitting there what are you doing by sitting there in zazen?" And the monk responds to his teacher, "I'm trying to make a Buddha." And the teacher picks up a brick and starts to wipe it with a cloth. And the student says, "What are you doing by wiping that brick?" And the teacher says, "I'm trying to make a mirror." The monk says, "Well, how do you make a mirror by polishing a brick, right? How are you going to turn a brick into a mirror? And the teacher says, well, how are you going to become a Buddha? By sitting zazen. Right? There's a futility there. There's something are we trying to become something other than what we are right now? But while we are already at that 0 point, right? That's our birthright. We're already at that 0 point. We still need to polish the brick. That's also part of it too. We still need to polish the brick. We need to see our zero-ness clearly for ourselves and not depend on the past experiences, nor on someone else's word, nor on faith alone, because in the end, we're all on our own great journey to becoming nothing. Right? So I like to close with bring Katagiri Roshi back into this. I found this last night in The Light That Shines Through Infinity. He writes this section on not forgetting mindfulness. He writes, actually he probably said this, and this was written down by his students. If you want to travel, do you want to travel? If you want to travel, there must be a destination toward which to go. That seems conflicting, doesn't it? When we talk about Zazen, you're already okay just as you are. But he's saying something that seems to conflict with that. If you want to practice precise effort, there must be a target for you to aim at. Who said Zazen was just about being who you are? That is mindfulness. Not forgetting mindfulness is the fifth one of Buddha's 8 great awarenesses. The fifth of Buddha's 8 great awarenesses. I mentioned this the other day. Hachi Dainin Gaku. The 8 awarenesses of great beings. This is something Dogen wrote about too. By making every possible effort to deal with daily life on the basis of having few desires, that's that zero-ness, few desires. Knowing how to be satisfied, come join us for Oryoki. Knowing how to be satisfied, knowing when to know when is enough. Enjoying serenity and tranquility, right? In Zazen, serenity and tranquility. Enjoying our practice of meditation, and exerting precise effort in our daily life, whatever it is that we're doing, putting that effort into it. Very naturally, you reach the level of not forgetting mindfulness. Not forgetting mindfulness, naturally. Mindfulness is characterized by 3 points: peace, harmony, and preservation. Peace, harmony, peace within ourselves, right? That's when we sit zazen. Harmony with each other, with the Sangha, and preservation of this life that is surrounding us, this nature around us, preservation of that. Those 3 things are not forgetting mindfulness. So, thank you, Katagiri Roshi. Thank you, Diane Roshi. Thank you, Sangha. Be well, be safe, be happy, and let's continue to love each other on this path. Thank you. All right.